And then I want him to walk around and everything. She does not move.
Okay.
So I don't know how to try to press it. Once she has this on here in the house, she's like, okay, I'm not going anywhere, dude.
Sure. And does she like just pick where she's at and just kind of shut down there, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I would do there, so that's gonna be a tricky part.
So I was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna try this because someone's walking around really nice. I'll hooked her up. She sat right next to me, and put her head down, and just ignored everything around her.
Gotcha. Does is there anything that she likes to do, like play fetch, tug, or anything like that?
Fetch with a tennis ball.
Is she crazy for it, or is it kind of like?
No, she's crazy for tennis balls.
Gotcha. What I would do is we have to build comfort.
For this all.
For having the collar on, correct, right? So it's not uncommon, especially when I'm working with behavior cases. So, like everybody talks about, like you want the dog to be happy and stuff, like with all the training and everything. And I'm like, yeah, like it's nice, but it's not my primary concern. Because if I'm working with a case like this and I'm more concerned about keeping the dog happy, I'm most likely overlooking other things that's going to keep the behavior around, right? So it's kind of like you can't have a happy dog and then also not attacking, Tillman. Yeah, I knew some kind of like Tillman, right? You can't have both. And people really struggle with that because they're like, oh, I don't like when my dog looks sad. I'm like, yeah, but your dog was like attacking this person or like attacking another dog. Like it doesn't care how they feel. Like at least they're not attacking anything, right?
Right.
The comfort or what's the word? Just kind of like stabilization of like, okay, like I have this thing on and I don't have to be so uptight about it. Is once they figure out that it's really just coming down to their decisions, okay? Which, there's always going to be a degree of regulation on your behalf, but, like when I'm working with dogs that would lunge at another dog, like what we start to see is instead of like looking and then going into lunges, they'll look and then just kind of like, I'm going to turn this way. So they made the active decision of giving avoidance behavior as opposed to doing something that was going to possibly create escalation. So I take an activity that the dog likes, fetch, and you could go on your walk, and then at the end, do you have a yard or?
We will in 3 weeks when we move into our new house.
Oh, nice, congrats.
Thank you. We just actually got approval today.
Oh, excellent. So now, so you'll have a yard in 3 weeks.
Yes.
Is maybe after your walk, end it with a 5-minute ball sesh. Okay, keep that collar on. Don't involve it in the training at that time. You just want to get her used to like, oh, I can do fun things too when this thing's present.
Got it.
And it'll start to loosen her up. How long it'll take, I can't tell you. Okay, but she's not the first dog that someone has said that when my dog has a collar on, they don't do anything. And then also just like the more you expose her to it. So in the beginning, it was really she just wore it for training, right? For like the walks and stuff, or was she wearing it more in the house as well?
Just for training.
Just for trainings, yeah.
The walks or training whenever I do something with her in the house.
Okay. So what I would do is just start making it more of a more frequent thing.
Okay.
Even if you put on for 30 minutes, just to have it on her, right? And you don't have to turn it on or anything. It's just like I'm putting this on her just to put it on her, to get her used to it. The more you expose dogs to it, the faster they tend to get over it. Adding positives. Maybe when she eats her lunch or her dinner or whatever it is, she's also got the collar on.
She eats it with a collar on.
Okay, cool.
Like every time, right from the walk, I put her in the corner and the other dogs are eating.
Mm-hmm.
I give her food with all of her collars on.
Uh-huh.
She'll sit there, she'll eat it, and then right when she's done, the other dogs are gone, I take everything off of her.
Okay.
So like she'll eat it perfectly fine with it on, but once I register this back onto her when she's on that couch, nope.
Gotcha.
She just come right next to me and just lay down and look the other direction.
Okay. Is she looking away from you?
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, that's what I would do to see if we can get her to open up a bit. Don't be surprised if this is a few months.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah.
She's a very timid dog, so I was kind of expecting that.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't sure once I actually saw her do it. I'm like, God damn you, what do I do now?
Sure.
Because it was perfect. The other day, I saw her eyeing him the whole time. Like, this is going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Karis, I'm going to put this on her. Let Tillman stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I got it on her,
she looked away.
Just looked away and down and laid down. I go, nope, I'm not doing anything. 'Cause
Sure.
I know what this is going to cause.
Have you tried with her having it on and then Karis like moving Tillman around? Or like bringing him in and stuff?
Yeah, he was walking around everywhere.
And she was just like,
yeah.
okay.
Just sat next to me and looked the other direction.
Did you try bringing him into the space?
In front of her face?
Huh.
No.
Okay. So that would be the next thing.
Okay.
Muzzle, of course.
Oh yeah, 100% that happens.
Yeah.
That muzzle goes back down.
Yeah. So, because the only thing I could potentially see from that is if she's like in a shutdown state, where she's thinking, I'm just gonna like go here and not move, right? Is if he moves into her space, potentially an escalation, because she's thinking, well, I have nowhere to go.
Correct.
So I'm gonna use one response, because that's the only response I think I have.
Mhm.
You know, so I would expect that. The call I just had right now before you came with the Zoom, I was talking about, because their dog doesn't like their kid. And I was like, you know, if your child corners your dog, expect your dog to bite your child. Because the dogs try to get away, there's no other option. So now it's like, all right, my last option is I bite you.
Yep.
So that's what I would expect there. And then whenever that's happening, you know, just have awareness and then just like, you know, check on the cage and stuff, make sure there's no building tension or like, because sometimes what can happen is the dog looks like it's completely chill, the other dog could be there, but there's staring going on, and then the staring goes on for too long, and the next thing you know, there's an escalation. And the owner's like, where did that come from? I'm like, the dog was just staring at him for like 2 minutes. You know,
You
so,
notice that?
yeah, so then you know, it can be hard to see, right? Because if you're sitting down like this and she's curled like that and she's looking that way, you can't see the eyes and everything, right? So then just, you know, if Karis is sitting across from you or anything, she can be your eyes from your from the vantage point that you can't see. But just something to keep in mind there. Okay?
Got it.
Anything else?
No?
So she's doing well with the kennel.
Yeah, I've got her in there a couple times, she's perfectly fine there. Now we
Okay.
just have to leave the house.
Okay, yeah, that's right, that's right. And then you already had the bar color and stuff, right? Was that
Yeah.
correct? Yeah. And then, yeah, so, okay, cool. And then just keep doing that, add more exposure to the collar. And then since you're gonna be doing that, if you leave the collar in place for too long, pressure sores can develop.
Yep, that was every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours rotating it, yep. If you feel like they start to develop anyways, because maybe she's just wearing it extensively, there is a comfort adapter meant for extended wear. You can just shoot me an email and I'll send you the link. It's like $35 on Amazon or something. But I use them for like my dogs that are like hyper aggressive, that are like literally wearing a collar 24/7. So that the owner doesn't have to worry about fiddling around with it so much.
Yeah.
So that's another option for you if you find that happen. It scabs over, it heals up, fur grows back. So it's nothing, you know, permanent.
Okay.
But yeah, every 2 hours we can rotate it. Okay. Were you able to work on the recall at all?
No.
Okay.
We got the leash in later last week, and we're gonna go to the dog park this weekend and try it out.
Okay. So what we'll do today is, what's this for you? Number 7?
7.
Number 7. And you're doing 9, correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Have you been able to do any duration work with her?
Like placing on duration?
Correct.
Yeah, she's actually been pretty good about it.
Okay, well, I mean, she doesn't move, right?
Yeah, she doesn't, once it's on, she doesn't fucking move.
Sure. Okay. So what we'll do is, so we have heel, we did stay, correct?
Partially, when we did heel, we started stay,
Mm-hmm.
walk around her and do all that stuff.
Sure.
But that's basically all we've done for stay.
Yeah, so stay is super simple. So we did heel, we did stay, we did the first half of recall, we've done place. So what we'll do today is we'll work on the sit and the down.
Okay.
So if you go somewhere and you don't happen to have a placemat with you, the down doesn't need anything. Right? So like right now, if you told her the down, like that's what it would be.
Yep.
I don't care what the surface is, you just lay down, don't move. More strict in the place command. Because place is like sit here, stand here, lay down, I don't care, just don't move.
Correct.
Whereas this is go into a specific position and don't move. And then so the way the stay works is when we did the stay, we did it from a sitting position when she was in the heel,
Correct.
right? So that was to teach her the difference between a moving command and then a non-moving command. So if Winnie were to be laying on her bed, again on her own choice, she could get off whenever she wants. But if you decided, oh wait, I need you to not move, and human logic says you can't say place because she's already on place or whatever, you could technically remove her and then say place, and that would start a command. Or I say stay. And stay then makes that become a place command, right? So same thing here, she's in a down position on her own choice, and then you decide like, you know what, I actually need you to not move, you would say stay, because she's already in that position. So now it becomes a down command. However, if you've not taught her how to down with the e-collar, you have no means of reinforcing it. So currently the only command you could do that with is place. Okay, so now that we covered today when we cover the sit, the down, you'll be able to do stay with that position as well. Okay? Does she happen to know how to down?
No.
Nothing.
No.
Okay, so let's go ahead and stand up here. And what's our number currently set at?
I have it at 35 right now.
Let's go and go down to 15. Okay, so whenever we teach anything new, we always do go down lower. And what I'm going to have you do here, let's rotate that collar. So you see how we have the chain on the top of the neck?
Yeah, I typically have it right here.
Yeah, let's rotate it so that the ring is actually at the bottom of her neck.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I'm going to slowly pull her head down?
There we go. Yeah, so what we're going to do here is so let's say she did have it down. Most people think you say pull the dog down. If they don't do it, you just press the button. Or if they get up from it, you just press the button. That's not true. You have to show them how to go into the position using the pressure, okay? Otherwise, she won't know how to turn it off. What I'm going to have you do here is lightly pull up on your leash to put her in a sitting position. Right? That's yeah. Go ahead and relax your leash. Let's see what she does. She's just gonna stoop. Okay, so do you mind? Yeah, let me hit her here. This might be a little tricky. All right. So what we're gonna do is we have to kind of open her up a little bit. Okay, this is fine. We're at 15. Oh, it's not on.
I turned it on before I got here.
Hopefully it's not.
It's on?
Oh, it's on dog too.
Oh.
There we go. Let's go down a little bit lower. All right.
That's fine.
So if she stoops, okay? If she stoops in squats like that, you actually want to use very minimal leash pressure, and you want the tip. You want the remote to be what gets her to pop up, okay? So most people tend to do the pull where they'll pull the dog up, kind of like what happened there, and you saw how she was kind of like awkwardly shaped. And I just put enough to give her guidance to go upwards, and then I use the remote and I keep increasing the power to prop her up. Okay, so it's really her making the decision of going from this to this. Okay, so here, I'll see if I can give you an example. I'm gonna go to 18, light pressure up just to bring her head up here. Yep. There you go. Right, so you see how I was able to bring it up just a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just very subtle tip, 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 23, tip, tip, 25, there, like that. Right, so once I hit tension on the neck here, I keep this stuck or still, and this is what's increasing. Okay, so this is just adding guidance for her. This was what's motivating her to actively think of correcting what she's doing. Okay, because if you just pick up her body weight, you're doing all the physical work, and then nothing's happening here. So then you're gonna just be struggling going back and forth. Okay, so what we want to do here is, there we go. So I'm gonna go back down again, go down to 12, and then after we've got her in a nice kind of upward sit, doesn't have to be perfect, but more so like this, you're going to put pressure, just subtle pressure like that, okay? So we're not trying to step on it here to create this right off the bat, because if you do that too soon, you're gonna create panic, and she's gonna start scattering, okay? I'm about here, and I have my leash in my right hand here. And if I pull up and I press down like this, I can feel tension on the back of her neck. And then you'll just slowly tap. And we're just kind of slowly taking up the pressure, the tension, as she lowers her head. 16. Alright, wait a moment. So you see I can take up more here, and then again, just enough. Almost. She's probably the first I've ever seen do this. There it is. I'm not gonna care about this, okay? You're so broken. This is ridiculous. There you go. Okay, so clearly you're not happy here, right?
No, not at all.
So the reason why we praise here is because using pressure to put a dog in a position like this can be threatening. So like, I've had dogs be completely friendly, and when I do this with them, they'll attack me. Okay, so it's super rare.
Yeah.
But they can be, outside of that context, they're like, hey, we're best friends. And as soon as I try to do this with them, they're like, hey, I don't like that you're putting me in this position using pressure. Then I expect to see defensiveness. So here, once you start to get more comfortable with the command itself, we shouldn't see anything like this. It should be more like a, yeah, I mean, you're gonna see an awkward down, but not this awkward, okay? And then break. Good, and now we should walk around with her. That was 20. Yep, good. I'm gonna go back down to that, I'm gonna go about 14 here. And then same thing, just very subtle pressure on the back. Yep, 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 yep. Better.
Wow.
So we're just teaching her how to give into the pressure and go into the position. So that one took much less than the first one, and the first one actually wasn't even that bad. Break. I've had dogs where I've had to like literally put my whole body weight on their back to get them to lay down. So that wasn't too bad. So we're not using the word now. We're just teaching you how to do it. Right. So she's already sitting here. So then you'll let that go slack and put that left foot. Right. You're gonna feel a little bit of a yep, and then tap. There you go, and praise.
Good girl. Good girl, Winnie.
I'm gonna repeat that 4 times.
Right, break. What?
Yeah, so here you do the light up, yep, tap, tap. Now keep your leash the same, but bump it on the collar. Right there, good, and what's your number now?
22.
So go back down to like that 14, 15 range. Yeah. Good, and praise.
Girl.
Yes. Great, good, we're gonna do that cycle 3 more times. Good. There you go, good, praise.
Girl. Good girl. Too many break. Good girl. Good Winnie.
Good.
Break.
One more. Alright, yep. Yep. Yep, keep your leash how it is, just bump the number. Bump it a little more. Almost. Bump a little more. There. What's your number now?
35.
Okay, there you go. We're gonna pause right there. So that's like the highest you've had to go so far. And her initially when she was trying to sit, she was like in a squatting set, and now it's a more upright, paws in front of her hind legs. So whenever you're working with her, this is where we start to get more into behavioral realm. Is clearly she's uncomfortable or something's going on, right? Is if you let her sit like this, in the beginning I ignore it because it's just too much for the owner to think about. But at this stage where you're comfortable with how the collar works and everything, is even if you're not doing this kind of stuff, but like let's say you're in a heel and when you come to a stop, she's just kind of really awkwardly sitting, is I would now use this and what you're doing with the light tension up in the remoting to get her to be more upright, okay? Because the more she practices that state of mind, the more it's kind of just staying as who she is, okay? So like when I work with really insecure dogs who shut down and they'll be like stooped and they're panting and all that stuff, they never get over it because we keep allowing them to practice it that way. So then we start countering it with collar, so the dog thinks, okay, if I sit and I'm like really like, insecure about it, this goes off, but as soon as I'm nice and in an upright position, it goes away. They opt for that less, and then they start to become more open and more like confident, okay? So, and confident in a good way. So we're gonna try the down one more time here with that leash pressure. There you go, good. Praise.
Good girl. Good girl.
Good. So since you picked it up so quick, we're gonna do the same concept. You're gonna toe a break, you're gonna circle around, you're gonna come to a stop. When you come to a stop, if she defaults into a down, I'm gonna have you correct it into that sitting position, no words. And then when you get ready to put your foot, just before you add that tension with your foot, you're gonna cue the word down. Then you're gonna start tapping, and then you're gonna pull on the leash if needed, okay? If you say down and tap and she just lays down, there's nothing you need to do, you would just simply praise her, okay?
Break. Down.
Good. That's okay. And praise, good girl.
Girl. Break. Break one.
Right. Good.
Winnie, down. Good girl. Good. I didn't say we were going to break.
3 more.
She's preparing.
Yeah, so hold, like pause for a second, yep. Just so we don't get like a preemptive down. Yeah, it's good, now when you're ready, yep.
Winnie, down.
Good.
Good girl. And you hit break.
2 more.
Winnie, down.
Good.
Good girl. Break.
Good, 1 more.
Down.
Good. I'm gonna pause right there. Very good. Just pick that up really fast for a dog to get no down.
Yeah.
So what we're working on here is just the ease of when I say down, how quickly do you go into position. This of course is like kind of like the place command. It's meant for extended use. So if you need her not move for 30 minutes, like I wouldn't put her on a sit, I'd either put her on a place or a down. Okay, those are meant for long term.
So I've trained her with stay,
Mm-hmm.
not with this, just regular stay. And she's pretty good if I'm in view of her.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But once I turn my back or move, she's right there behind me, or she moved.
And where are you applying that stay?
If I leave her in a by our walk-in closet. So I go back out to the room and like take care of the other dogs. As I turn that corner from that closet, she's already following behind me.
Gotcha.
Or, as I'm saying, as I feed her, I'll have her sit there and stay. And she's perfectly fine with other dogs in the room, whatever. And I still tell her to stay there, and I turn the corner to go into our living room. She follows me into the living room.
Gotcha. So if you wanted to do, so that's like an out of sight stay, right?
Correct.
Is first we start with like baby steps, which is like, I think for the place I said start when she's right next to you.
Yeah.
And over the course of time, you're gonna make it to where you can like get up and move. Is she like in a sitting position when you do this? Okay.
She sits.
So if you're trying to push that sooner rather than later, what you would do is you'd want to have your equipment, because there has to be some kind of negative to motivate her to not do that again.
Correct.
Right? So then like if I put her in a down, for instance, by the closet with the leash and I drop it and I go and I walk out and I hear her walking towards me, I start remoting immediately. I pick up the leash and I walk back to the general spot.
Yep.
You know, and then I'm gonna say down again. With the tapping, you should see her just go dip back down on her own. I drop the leash, go back to walk away again. I hear her walking, start tapping, grab the leash and I repeat. And so eventually she thinks, every time I get up, I get remoted, and he leads me right back to that same spot anyways, okay? And then you'll start to see like, where you'll leave and she'll hold it. But then like 5 minutes later, she might get up. So it's easiest, so like the way you would progress this is the same way you do the place, is if you're gonna watch TV for like an hour, just downrate your feet, right? So instead of like having her be on the couch next to you, I just down her. I'm stepping on the leash kind of like you are here, and I watch TV for an hour. If she starts to get up, you'll feel it on the collar or on the leash, and you start tapping to correct her, and you go back to watching TV. So that's what's creating the duration aspect of it, which makes the whole, if I down you or stay you, whatever, it makes that easier, okay? And that, if you do this for a couple of weeks, after about 2 weeks in is when I would start pushing towards that.
Out of sight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if you're trying to push for because you can technically push out of sight fat like sooner, but just expect you're going to be doing quite a few corrections before she gets that idea, right? So if you're fine with that, then I'm like, go for it. Otherwise, if it's like, no, that's annoying, then I'd avoid it until a couple weeks in when she's got a good concept of it. Okay. So when you're walking around with her, when you came to a stop, a couple of times she starts to default down. Right, she just started to lay down on her own. It's a very common thing that we see. So with e-collars, we teach new things or more things, we create more problems, okay? Because now she has to decipher what that e-collar means from like a total of 5 commands currently. And then once we add in the sit, it's gonna be 6 commands. So for her, what you might see is when you're in a heel, you come to a stop, you might start to see her do this, okay? If that happens, you wouldn't say sit, you would do what you did earlier. Lightly pull up, start remoting, no words, and pop her into that sitting position. That's going to ultimately fix that problem, okay? So this is why a lot of trainers will tell you not to teach the dog to down from a sitting position, because it creates that pattern. The reason why I do it is because it's easier for the owner and for the dog to learn how to down from that position, okay? And I can always fix problems later. So whenever you walk her, or whenever she downs prematurely, especially during the heel, technically it doesn't matter. Like if you're just doing a leisurely walk and you stop if she were to lay down, like it wouldn't really matter. But definitely during the heel that can't happen because she's supposed to go into an auto sit. Yeah. Correct. Okay. So questions on this so far?
No.
So what we're going to do now is add in or layer in the remote over the sit, which technically we've already done for the auto sits, right? We just didn't formally title it because it was built into the heel. So what we're going to do here is what you were doing previously, except now you're going to cue the sit first. So before, if she had laid down, you would pull up and tap to pop her into that position. Now that she's currently in a formal down, it would be, it's not unfair technically, but like if you put pressure and tapped her to put her in a sitting position, that just starts to create conflict because she doesn't know exactly why. So if you cue the word sit, she at least thinks, well, I heard something, then this happened. So what you're going to do here is you're going to cue the word sit, and then lightly kick in with that leash pressure and the tap to prop her up into a sitting position. Once she does so, you're going to relax your leash. What you might see then is she's going to go back to that down position. You wouldn't say sit again, you would just up tap to correct her back into that position, because now she's going to start assuming things, and you're probably going to start to see her jump ahead to commands. Okay? So go ahead and get your leash ready here.
Mini break.
You'll do a little lap around, and then what you're gonna do is, we'll see if she, what she chooses to do. If she prematurely downs, you'll correct her. That's good. And wait a second. Now cue the down.
Down.
Good. And then you're gonna take up your leash. And you're gonna cue the sit first, and then lightly tap it up.
Sit.
And then relax your leash, and we're gonna wait a second there, okay? So, we're gonna go through a sequence of sit and downs back to back. This is called puppy push-ups. When you do this, if you always do down, sit, down, sit.
So you get a routine.
So you'll get that pattern correct, and you start to see you're going between those commands like that. So I like to add in space between each command to vary it a bit, so that I know she's listening for the verbal cue and not assuming the next thing, okay? Whenever you're ready, you're going to cue that down.
Down.
Good.
Sit. Sit.
There you go. Good. And then relax. We're going to wait a moment. We're going to cue one more down when you're ready, and then we're going to release her and try again.
Down.
Go ahead and break.
Break.
Good. We're going to
job.
walk around, and we're going to try that sequence again once you come close down. Good.
Sit.
Good. That was a nice one. Pretty quick.
Down.
Right. Right there. Good.
Sit.
Good. Break.
Go. Break.
Good. Try another one.
Down.
Good.
Sit.
Good. On that one, did you have the tap?
I did just because I thought I was supposed to, but she was getting up on her own.
Yeah, so if you cue the sit and she pops right into it, you can avoid the tap. So the recall is different from other commands.
Okay.
The recall we always tap in the beginning because we're trying to force confusion. Here, I give them the window. If you say sit and she's just popping up, I lay off the remote so that she learns that she can beat the punch.
So if I say down and she doesn't do anything, do a test.
Correct, yes. So you'll always tap if you need to reinforce, but like if you said down and she starts to do this right away, you can avoid the tap.
We need down.
Yep. Good.
Such That can't be comfortable. Sit.
There you go. So that was a good set. It's pretty quick.
Down.
Right.
Sit.
Good. Break.
Cool. Break.
On this next start, I'll have you like kind of center yourself in the middle of the floor here. Yeah. So here she auto set, which is fine. You can go ahead and down her.
Down.
Wait a moment. There. Now, when you do your down taps, or the taps for the down, I go slower with rhythm, because fast tends to create speed or jumpiness. So like for the heel and for the recall, more taps is fine because If anything, we want them to move faster.
Mm-hmm.
Here, when you're tapping her to that down, it was tap, tap, tap pretty quick. So then it made her kind of jumpy. But the prong collar countered her, which allowed her to like stop and then lay down. So if you're working with her on your own and you feel like, man, she's not responding well or she's getting super jumpy, even frustrated, it might be you're going too fast.
Okay.
Too fast or too high.
So I was just going too fast then.
Correct, that was too fast, yeah. So it'd be more of like a tap, tap, tap rhythm. We create speed just through repetition, because she's already picked it up pretty quick. But if you notice that on your own, or sometimes people will just jump in with a ton of tension on the leash, and it's too much for the dog tends to like get frantic, okay? And then they panic. Go ahead and pop her into a sit.
Sit.
Good. And then what you're gonna do here is stays implied with both the sit, the down, and the place commands. You don't have to say stay. Now, if you say stay, it's not the end of the world, but in my theory of training, I only use stay when the dog's already in position on their own time to then make it a command. And then anytime I say sit down or place, I just say the word once and then stay is implied. Is you're gonna step away from Winnie with that right leg, kind of like what we did with the stay. Because it's technically the same thing, except in the heel, you had to say stay to differentiate for her. Now you don't move with me. But now, all you told her was sit, so it's implied that she doesn't move with you in the first place. Okay? So we're going to just step out. Good. And then you'll begin to walk around her. That's fine. Good. Have you done full circles?
Have not.
Go ahead and try to just do a full circle around her. Good. And then you come back to her side. Go ahead and praise her.
Good girl. That's very good.
Okay. And then try stepping out again. She should stay put. And then just do a real quick full circle. Up, tap, 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 tap. Good. And relax. Good. So if she breaks the position when you're trying to do a full circle, once you correct her, I just try to complete one, and then come back, you'll praise, and then you would either release.
A new full circle. Like
Correct.
I'll continue it, but just go from.
You reset it, correct. Good.
Good girl.
Good. Now, let's go ahead and down her.
Winnie, down.
Good. Then I'll have you step out and do that, the walk around as well. Yep. And you would correct this the same way. So like if she got up and ran towards you, you would tap her, lead her back. And ideally, I just keep the tapping going to see if she'll respond and adjust the remote and self-correct with no repeated word. Otherwise, if she looks too confused or if she looks like she's not getting it, keep tapping, a little bit of leash pressure. Okay, go ahead and praise her.
Good girl.
Good, and break.
Break.
And you'll move, and then we'll try that again. Good. That's okay, yeah. Yeah, now just say that one's better.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of mix is she again?
Lab. Pitbull, they say. I don't know how much I believe them. She's fucking rat oriented.
She's cute though.
She's adorable. We'll go to my brother's house. He lives 2 blocks away. Let her out in the backyard all the time. Doubt. He's got rats. Chicago, no shit.
Sure.
But the whole time, just sitting there on the prowl, trying to go figure out where the rats are coming from. She's actually caught one of them.
Oh, really?
Oh my god. My brother's like, I felt bad. I wanted to catch the rats, don't get me wrong. But then I heard that thing squealing for its life, and I was like, oh, that thing's gonna die now.
Yeah.
She's adorable. She's just so weird and timid.
Yeah.
Girl. Sit.
Did. And she picked up on this stuff pretty quick. Down tends to be the hardest for dogs to pick up on. That's why I was like, let me do this first, so it makes life easier. But yeah, she
So she still sleeps in the bed with us, with the other dog. Good girl. Shh. Tillman was at the end of the bed. She knew not to get up on that bed, because he was then had control of it. So he went to another spot in the house and fell asleep the other night. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
So wait, he was on the bed already?
So in order for us to go to bed with them both on there, we have to take him in there. We have to take Tillman in there, put him on the bed by
Correct.
us.
Mm-hmm.
She gets on the end of the bed. She got up and moved in the middle of the night. He took her spot at the end of the bed.
So then she didn't hop back up.
So she didn't even pretend to get back up. She goes, oh fuck, that's not my spot anymore. And then once we went back and got Tillman away to bring him back up, she jumped right back up and got
Good.
back up.
Well, I mean, that's how it's supposed to work, you know?
And then this was these dumb idiots right before I came over here. Not lying. All three just chilling on the couch like nothing is the fuck wrong.
Is she the one in the middle there, or is she?
That's Lily.
Oh, I see.
She's right there.
Yeah. And what was this, like, was it she was the last one
Tillman
on?
was, yeah, last one on. Tillman was walking around the house this morning, and she was right behind him smelling his butt the whole time. Like just as happy as can be. But if Tillman does it to her.
Oh, so she doesn't like him sniffing her.
Correct.
Gotcha.
But she'll do it all the time too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
She'll do it every time that she wants to.
I mean, it's the same thing for people. You know, it's like people who talk crap, but then when you try to talk crap back, they can't handle it.
Yeah.
You know? So it's not like out the norm, but
Dude, why do you gotta be so annoying about it though?
she's falling asleep.
Down.
Good. And what we'll do here is go ahead and drop your leash and have a seat. So when it comes to the down, I don't care how the dog downs, okay? So I don't care about aesthetics. I don't need to look pretty. I just need to be functional. So earlier when she was like with her legs sprawled out, it's like all like weird. If I downed her and she ended up being that way, if I left her there for like 15, 20 minutes, she would readjust, right? And if I kept practicing with that, with her, she would then learn at some point, I'm gonna end up being here for a while, so instead of making myself uncomfortable at first, I'm just going to a more comfortable position. So like even now, like this is better than what it was before.
Oh yeah.
Clearly still uncomfortable, but as you repeated the command more, and she's become more familiar with like, oh, this is what I'm doing, you start to see them relax more as well. So if you down her, and like earlier when she was like curled up into a little donut, like that's perfectly fine. If she's on her side, you know, sprawled, that's perfectly fine, and she would be on her back with her legs up, that's perfectly fine. What I care about is that she does not move until I give her permission, correct? Because if I'm gonna have a dog be there for any period of time, they're gonna need to be comfortable. So if you're practicing this with her, do keep in mind that if she really has a good concept of the word of down, and she knows that I can't move from this, I would assume she'd have a heightened, like going back to earlier, where I was like, if she's at your side with the collar on and she thinks she can't move, and then Tillman comes in, I would anticipate potentially an escalation there, because she's thinking, I can't get away from you. Same thing for the down, right? If she's down and she knows if I get up, I get remoted, and I want to be corrected, and like Tillman were to come into that personal space while she's in a down, I would anticipate I might see a moment of tension there, because she's thinking, I can't get away from you. So if you ever, things like that I would push in the controlled context to see how it works, to see if there is any tension. If everything works out fine and no issues, then great. But then when it pops up organically, I wouldn't assume anything's gonna happen, but then it's still a different kind of situation, okay? So same kind of progress point for the down, starting at your feet. This week if you have to get up, you would release her first, get up, go do something, then come back, and then down her again if you want to. By week 2, you could down her and then get up to go get something and come back. She should stay put. Week 3, she's a little bit away from you. Week 4, she can be completely away from you. And you can get up, go out of sight, do all that stuff. They tend to overlap the stay concept, okay? If she can do it down, obviously it makes place way more easier.
Yeah.
Because place has more options. So if you're gonna opt for one over the other, I'd most likely do this over the place, because this will be a lot more strict. You definitely want to keep the leash on during these coming weeks if you're gonna do any duration work with her, because if she does get up to make a mistake or whatever and you remote her, she's gonna think, well, I have more options to play with, so I'm gonna take off. And then you gotta remote her, and you gotta grab her by the collar, and you gotta drag her back and all that stuff. Leash just makes it a lot easier, removes those options, so eventually she learns okay, those aren't options. My best bet is just to kind of just sit here and chill. During the heel, if you start to see her default into a down, you know how to correct that. Your handling of the leash was perfect. It was good. People tend to get stuck on kind of a yanking approach and not relying on the collar so much. And you want the collar to be what does all your work, because that's ultimately what's going to deter her from prematurely laying down and breaking position and stuff. Questions on any of this so far?
No, that's great.
So it's pretty simple. In terms of practicing like this kind of puppy push-up stuff that we're doing right now, 2 to 3 minutes, real short. If you and Kara did a session a piece, that's perfectly fine. The most important part of dog training is always application. Finding places, where can I use this? Where can I apply it, to make it functional? Once you feel like she's mastered it, and she has a very kind of clear concept of the 2 commands, then I don't worry about practicing it. I just apply it.
Just do it.
Yeah. Now, because winter's coming and stuff, so it might limit what you're able to do outside with her. But you can turn ball sessions into training sessions. I can have her in a sit and I can bounce the ball. And she has to hold that position. Then I'll tell her break and then throw the ball as a reward. So you have a distraction and a reward at the same time, and you can use it to kind of prove things a bit. It can also help her again get over the e-collar. So I think earlier I just talked about throwing the ball with the collar on and just getting her used to that. If you feel like she's opening up a bit, you can try to integrate the 2 things together. Don't be surprised if when you try to incorporate training with ball play, you start to see her get a little apprehensive of the ball. If that's the case, I lay off the training and I just do a bunch of throws to see if it'll open her up, and then I end, and then I try again the next day. Eventually, once she learns the name of the game of you say this command and then you bounce the ball and you distract me for a bit, as long as I hold still, I'm gonna get it at some point. You'll see her kind of balance out and want to do it because it's more of a working for the ball type of deal, as opposed to I just get the ball for no reason. Questions?
No?
So for this, I guess trying to leave the home to see how she does with kennel stuff.
This week.
Yeah. And then with your obedience stuff now, because now you've learned all the commands: sit, stay, down, come, place, heel. The 6 commands. Is if you do a training session and you're practicing everything all at once, and you notice the downs are kind of sloppy because it's the newest thing she's learned, you would remove the down from that little repertoire, isolate it, and work on it in a session on its own for 2 to 3 minutes, for a few days, and practice the other stuff together. And then once you feel like she's good with the downs again, and they're pretty spot on, you can go back and try to integrate it with the rest of the repertoire. Because if you try to improve one behavior as you're practicing a multitude of behaviors, you're not going to get anywhere. You have to isolate it.
Yeah.
So in training sessions, it's either to teach something new or to improve upon something that they already know. And whenever I see them struggling with something, I always stop practicing it in that bigger context, isolate it, focus on that one thing, and then once I feel like the dog's got a good handle on it, bring it back in. If it's still kind of sloppy, take it back out, work on it some more, bring it back in, so on and so forth. Don't be surprised if you start to see her get more confused now, because now she's got to decipher between 6 different commands, which is why being consistent with how you do things is helpful, because she's reading what to do in response to the collar according to what's going on in life at the moment. So of course, if she's 20 feet away from you, tap would most likely mean to return to me.
Okay.
If she's in a heel position and she's lagging, tap means to catch up to my leg. If she sees her bed and you say, you know, place, she's gonna assume this is where I'm supposed to go. So things like that, just being consistent with all that stuff helps make it easier for her to decipher what she's supposed to do. Okay?
Got it.
Anything else?
No.
So good, she picked it up really quick. I'm honestly surprised. Because most dogs, when they don't know how to down, it's usually a struggle.
Really?
And she got to it, she did it really well. So, and you can see her, like she's a bit more relaxed, her eyes are closing here. The posture, a little bit more relaxed.
So she sits like this all the time.
Mm.
Like normally, she sits like this.
Okay, so this is like her comfort. Like,
She awkwardly sits all the time. Like what you said was awkward as hell before. I'm like, I see her do that.
oh, really? Like that first one when she was just like legs like this?
Yeah, all the time.
Really?
Yeah, it's bizarre.
That's weird.
Like that's not abnormal for me to see her sit like that. Just sitting down. I told you she's a strange dog, as you said earlier.
And there's nothing like going on in the moment, like that might be.
No, just goes to sit down on the couch and that's how she'll sit. She's awkward. She's adorable as hell, but she is a weird ass dog, man.
Yeah, it's funny how dogs have like their own little quirks. So.
Yeah, no, awkwardly sitting is a normal thing for her. All the time. And she'll look like she's falling asleep right
She's funny. So we'll see you in a week.
Yep.
Most likely next class.
Hey.
Oh, yeah, so after this, why I did this, I'll tap, and you'll grab your leash as you're tapping. Tap, watch that general area. So we're not going to repeat anything, we're just going to tap, 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 tap. Now a little bit of leash pressure as you're tapping. Good. So once you've done this enough times, what you're going to find is she will actually correct into the down position without even having to do the foot step. So of course, we just learned this, you know, an hour ago, whatever. But as you work with her more, whenever she breaks position, that's how you would correct it. And I always go to the tapping first and wait to see if with just the tapping alone will she go back into it. Because in the future, if she's in the down and she gets up and you tap her, she should just go back into the down again. And this is part of that process. Okay?
When you sit. Sit. Girl, break.